Welcome to Upon Further Review, your deep dive into the last century of sports. Join your moderator, Hall of Fame director Keith Watson, and Aegis experts Lloyd and Todd Holden as they go behind the legends and the legacy.
Welcome to Upon Further Review, a look back at 100 years of Harford County sports and the athletes and the games that people play. Our show is brought to you by the Historical Society of Harford County, the Harford County Sports Hall of Fame, and most importantly, Red Dog Agency's Morgan Knox. I'm your host, Keith Watson. My partners are two longtime Harford County residents, Todd Holden and Lloyd. Mac reported on, photographed, and followed local sports since the mid-1960s. Todd has 70 years plus as a photographer and reporting on local residents and other phenomena. I was a 30-year coach in local sports and am the director of the Harford County Sports Hall of Fame. So since we are right around the corner from the Sports Hall of Fame induction, our third class, thought it would be appropriate to discuss the participants, the people that are being inducted. And I'll start off with the first person going in, and it is a young fella that you guys may not be aware of. If you have anything to add, by all means, go ahead. But I'll just get the ball rolling with Carson Kalama. Okay, so Carson Kalama went to Bel Air High School, went to Salisbury State. When he was at Bel Air, he set scoring records in lacrosse and in soccer. He went on to Salisbury, won a couple Division III national championships, and I believe he's the all-time leader, the all-time scoring leader for Salisbury, and is currently an assistant coach at a two-time national champion Harford Community College lacrosse team. He's a certified public accountant and lives locally. And an interesting story about Carson that I did not know until recently, because he's like, I would say he's probably 30-ish. I met Carson's uncle or great uncle, one or the other, we couldn't figure out which one, when I was 12 years old, living in Florida. All right, so just an interesting little backstory, maybe not to everybody, but it is to me. So I met him at a bull roast, first time I met him after he was already nominated. And I said, listen, I got to ask you, just by any chance, are you related to Dave Kalama? And he says, I think I am. I've heard that name all my life. I'm not positive, but I think it's my dad's uncle. And he says, how do you know Dave Kalama? Well, when I was 12 years old, I lived down in Clearwater, Florida, and I worked cleaning up trash and stuff at a surf shop. And most everybody is aware of a belly board called the Maury Boogie board. Well, that was a brand new thing back then. And we had taken broken surfboards and we knocked them. We polished up the edge that broke, and we would just ride the little waves in the Gulf of Mexico on these belly boards. Well, Boogie board comes along, and Dave Kalama comes out on behalf of Maury Boogie to the surf shop that I worked at in Clearwater, Florida. 60 years later, Dave Kalama the son is internationally known as one of the world's best surfers for riding 100-foot waves. And, that's a little interesting. It's interesting to me, maybe not to everybody. But anyways, Carson is quite an athlete and is, he's coaching. And, if you're a good athlete, you got to think back on what made you a good athlete and try to carry it forward. And I think moving into coaching is big. Any thoughts on, you guys aware of Carson Kalama at all?
Keith, of the 7 other prospective inductees, he's the only one I really don't have any knowledge of. I know him by reputation, but I don't have the firsthand eyewitness stuff.
I kind of figured that would be the case, and that's okay. But he's going in, and his list of people that are coming for him, he must have, I don't know, probably 50 people that are coming on his behalf. Next up is Terry Smith. And I'll let Mac, you're aware of Terry, right?
Well, I am. She was a tremendous sprinter at Bel Air High School, and I was doing some little bit of research the other day. 1985, at the Harford County Championships. She won 4 events. And then, she goes on from there up to Brown University and excels there as a sprinter. So,
Well, and I think she won a number of state championships. She won a bunch of county titles, but I think she may have won everything she won in the counties. She won at the states also, because I was told that she maxed out the number of state championships that a person could win in one tournament. She did that twice. Then went to Brown, was all Ivy League, was on the Olympic ladder, and just didn't quite get to the top level.
She must have had a great career.
She did, and she's very intelligent. I mean, she's got Ivy League educated,
Uh-huh.
and but I don't know that much about her. But the rest of them we know a whole lot more about. And a part of
Okay.
the reason is they're young. They're a little on the young edge. Next up is Barb Solberg. Barb was class of '80 from Aberdeen. Tremendous athlete, 3-sport athlete, field hockey, basketball, and softball. And I'm sure, Mac, you know probably as much, if not more, about her than I do.
well, what can you say? I mean, 3 sports, top shelf in all of them. Went to Minnesota.
Right.
I guess she would have followed Tommy
No,
Davis
she was at the
there.
same time. They're the same age.
Same time? Okay. Okay. So her last year would have been 85, I guess, in Minnesota.
She's 1 year apart. Then she was 84 from Minnesota.
But and like Tommy, she excelled there also. So, but just gifted in all 3 sports.
Well, she played sports. She's played softball for the post 39 teams with Karen Stout and all those great
Right.
players from
Right.
Bel Air state championship teams, as well as some of the younger players that were still in high school for the Spike Up to Grove teams over at C. Milton Wright. But Barb is in the University of Minnesota Hall of Fame. And her sister, for the Hall of Fame, we do the athletic bio, and her sister read her bio we're gonna use in her video, and her sister said that she took Barb up there maybe for her senior year or whatever. She drove them out from Aberdeen to Minnesota, and they were walking down the street, and this guy pulls up to him, and he's like, what's everybody from Aberdeen moving to Minnesota? And it was Tommy Davis and his dad.
Okay.
So they knew each other while they were there, and had a real nice experience. And Barb's a tremendous person. Okay, so next up is Jeff Grants. I'll let you go with that one, Mac.
Well, first team all county in 3 sports: baseball, football, and basketball. Excelled when he went to South Carolina in baseball and football. That baseball program back then was top shelf, and they made it to Omaha to the College World Series. And as I recall, Jeff hit a home run in his first at bat. In football, he was a second team Associated Press All-American. He set numerous records. 260 yards rushing in one game at that time was a school record. I think it still is a record for a quarterback. And he was an option quarterback. They ran what they call a split back veer, and they could run the ball. Both of their running backs were over 1,000 yards, and then Jeff, I think, had maybe 600-700 yards himself. His final game against Clemson at home, they had 8 possessions, and they scored touchdowns on every possession. Jeff threw 5 scoring passes, and he ran for 1. Let's see. Of course, he teamed with his high school teammate Tom Amrine. And
Well, one of the things that Jeff told me was the game where he ran for 260. He said his first couple plays, I was it against Clemson? I can't remember who it was.
No, it was at Ohio University.
Okay, they kind of had him figured out. So instead of doing what they would normally do, he just kept the ball. and they weren't ready for that. And he wound up getting 260. But Todd, he's from the Wakefield Terrace or Wakefield Meadows. I'm not sure which one it is.
Wakefield Meadows.
Man,
And the people that came out of that neighborhood, the athletes, like the Schler brothers and Swam and so on. I mean, you probably ran into those guys or know those guys from years and years ago.
just a lot of athletes from Wakefield and Bella, the surrounding farms put out back then there were farms, and they put out some incredible athletes that that was their getaway from farming, and maybe there's something fun that I can do with my body instead of lift bales of hay and empty feed. And those athletes were devoted. Most, I don't know any of them that were hot dogs or they were serious athletes that loved to play the game, whether it was football, baseball, basketball, and with me, it was lacrosse. We had some guys on the lacrosse team that they'd never played. I'd never played lacrosse. And it was a fun time for the experienced guys who I learned from just being on the same team with them.
But one of the things that Jeff told me was that moving down to Columbia, being part of that community as a college student, and then after, because he stayed after, was a graduate coach, is that the community embraced him and the other players. But he was quarterback and superstar Jones in the neighborhood, and they named a street after him and basically rolled out the red carpet, gave him a lot of opportunities for employment, and he did a handful of things. He was a pitch man for like a car dealership, and ultimately went to work for a I believe it was a beer distributor
It
as a
was
salesman, then became a sales manager and so on.
Budweiser.
But you know I think he's still looked at as a sort of a local legend.
Oh,
He
yeah.
is.
He's on
He
TV.
is.
He does a lot of reporting and things like that. Well, his backfield mate that followed him up, that actually was there the year before him, if I'm not mistaken, was Tommy Amrine.
Um,
Mhm.
And I'll turn it over to Matt because you know Tommy really well.
well, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Tommy suffered some bad luck with knee injuries, and that kind of crimped his style. He was looked upon as a running back. In fact, Paul Dietzel told him he was the best running back he had, and they had some pretty good ones back then. And I think at one point he dedicated himself to putting on weight. I think he said he put on 20 pounds of muscle. And when
Right.
that happened, he got converted uh, from running back into more of a blocking back and a protector of the quarterback and that kind of thing. And but like Jeff and everybody, a good guy.
Well, Todd, you
Yeah.
probably knew the Amrine family.
Well, I tell you, the whole family, their dad, Merv Emrine raised three children, one girl, two boys, and they're all three. Well, the sister has passed away recently, but Tommy and Jerry are just great people. And a side note, we were talking about Emrine and Grants. Grants had PR when there wasn't such a thing as PR because everybody in the county, thanks to the Aegis newspaper, knew who he was. He was like a local hero then. Tommy was more low key, and he worked hard with his father in the produce business. And you think of these two combination, not brothers or anything, but then you think of later on Al Neville and Danny Bungori. They were high school champions, and then they went on to University of Maryland together. So some of these worked out pretty good.
Well, one of the things that Tom told me was that before he was a senior, he had some of the scouts for the pro teams would come to the various schools that were being successful, or that had maybe high profile athletes that would fill a spot that they needed, and they would give them run their 40s and do some other drills to get some times for them. And he was being looked at by a lot of different teams.
Yeah.
And after he graduated, he had some opportunities to walk on, some non-draft opportunities, and he just decided, I'm going to go back. I think his dad told him he could use his help running the family business, which was produce distribution.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm done with athletics. Moved back, helped his dad run this business. His dad retired. Tom took it over 100%. And expanded the business. Brought his son Jeremy, I think it is, brought him in
Yes.
on board, and they turned it into a pretty big operation. It has several hundred employees in a couple of different locations, and I was
And it
up
was
at Tom's
top
place.
notch. It
What's
was
that?
top notch stuff he was selling.
Yeah, well, he supplied all the
People,
restaurants.
oh yeah, they supplied a ton of restaurants, and they were known for their quality and their service.
And
It's a
he's
good
just he's
outfit.
a really good guy. He built this really nice house up in the Perryville area where he lives with his wife, and he got great all of his family, Justin and so on. They're all around, and they sees them all the time. Okay, so next up is Sonia Wilmoth. Sonia Sonia played at Harvard, was a three-time state champion and one-time almost state champion pitcher for C. Milton Wright for the legendary Spike Updegrove. Go ahead, Mac.
Yeah. Well, and then she, in addition to being, just fantastic as a high school pitcher, and I think Spike's team was that Peabody Press, I think, was the sponsor in their
That doesn't mean
summer
anything.
league. Anyway, they excelled. They won all kinds of awards and state championships and so forth. So, but Sonia, she was top shelf, and then went on to coach
Well,
softball.
she was on those teams with Barb Solberg and Karen Stout and the girls that were older, and like Liz Panos, those
Right,
post 39 teams.
right. Kathy
She was just a
McGrath,
young pup back then.
Kathy Fox. Yeah, lots of good players on that team. Ellie Ripken, I think, was on that team. Shirley Ashburn was a catcher.
Well, I got to watch Sonia pitch. I'd heard about her. I knew her brothers went to school with me, and I went to I think it was Falston, to watch her pitch. And I never saw she was in a world apart from other high school pitchers. I mean, she was just that good and focused, I guess is the word that hit me that day I watched her. Just a very focused athlete that was really a great. I wouldn't be able to hit a ball against her, which that isn't saying a whole lot, but nonetheless, she was incredibly gifted. And when her dad was in the last months of his life, um, she came down from Pennsylvania, pitched in with her sister Suzanne, and they took care of their dad. And their mother had suffered from dementia, and they took care of her. So they're family-oriented, good people, both of them.
So the one story that I think is really remarkable on the athletic side is that they won states three times at C. Milton. Her senior year, she's pitching in the state finals game. She pitches a no hitter, and they lose because of an error.
Oh
So she pitches
no,
a no hitter and it loses the game.
I
That
didn't know that. I didn't know that.
that doesn't happen. Do I have that right, Mac?
Quite rare.
Yeah. So, but okay. So she did go to she played for Westchester. No, she played for LaSalle
Yeah.
University, and then she wound up. She was all conference several times, and then she coached at Westchester, and then ultimately down at, I think it was called Florida Atlantic or North Florida University, and was very successful there. Now she lives up in PA, and I'm not sure what she does with herself up there, but she was a very pleasant person. I didn't know her personally, but through the Hall of Fame process, I talked to her a few times. We didn't talk about Lynn James.
I mean, I know she's the all-time winningest girls basketball coach in the state by far. What did she win? Over 600?
620.
Yeah, 620. I never knew for sure. I know she went to Tennessee, and I think she played there.
Went to Tennessee. They didn't have formal NCAA basketball, but she went there on they didn't call it a scholarship because they didn't have sports. They just called it tuition free to Tennessee. And that was coming after a 2-year stint at a junior college in Georgia where she grew up.
Okay. All right.
But she grew up with a family. She was the only one athletic in the family. And, I talked to Fran Matthews, who was, around the same time as Lynn, and talked about, the games that she won. And then, of course, Morgan Knox, she played for Lynn. And, Lynn's had a tough time here recently. Her husband passed, and then she's not doing real well, but she's going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame. And she's one of those people, 620 wins, no matter how you came about them, that's a lot of wins.
That sure is.
I mean, I looked at my time. I had averaged like 25-5 in dual meets, but nobody really cares because I didn't hit 500.
Well, you gotta have a magic number.
Okay, so the last person up is Mac Lloyd, and Mac and I'll let Todd do.
Oh God.
Well,
if you want me to carry the ball and start it off, I will. I was at the Aegis. It was the best newspaper in the county, and it included the Evening Sun and the Baltimore Evening Post. But we were sports area. The Robbie Wallace's career with the Sports Writer's Notebook, and they were always just about as equal on sports as politics, and both sold newspapers. Well, they were looking for somebody to help out. Now, Mac, if I get this wrong, you jump on me, okay?
Okay.
All right. Robbie said, "Do you know anybody?" And I found Sandy, a couple other ladies that worked there as reporters. I said, "Well, Mac Lloyd, doesn't he string results of softball and baseball in to you?" He said, "Yeah, I never thought of that." I said, "We ought to give Mac a try." And Mac was working at Coppers, I believe, down in Glenarm. And he came up and he was given more and more and more. And next thing you know, he had a predecessor that I didn't really care for, but Mac fit right into what we were doing in dedication. And of course, was Tom Penrod there when you were there, Mac?
No, it was Pete was there, Pete Slater.
Pete, yeah. And it was just a marriage made in heaven because these were all local guys, no experience, a lot of us, and given the opportunity by Robbie Wallace and John Worthington to, here's the ball, do something with it. And we were very lucky. We were good. And I don't know, there's no word to put in it. You got to have a little drive and competitiveness in you. And I think Mac probably is the best sports writer, sports editor the paper's ever had.
Checked in the mail, Todd.
No, it's true. If you tell the truth, it's easy.
Well, let me hop in there, right? Because I was on the covered end of things when Mac was probably like, in the late 70s. I don't know if you say you're at your peak or not, but the Aegis was such a big deal to us all. And it's almost like you're saying this ad nauseum. Every Thursday morning, we got together to look at ourselves in the paper, and Mac Lloyd this and Mac Lloyd that. And I'd never met Mac Lloyd, but he knew my mom from the Harco Credit Union, which was, a kiss of death for me because I couldn't get away with anything because all the teachers went to the credit union. and anything I did, good
Right.
or bad, wound up there. But the first time I met Mac, I saw the name a million times in the paper. First time I met him was when I signed my letter of intent to play football. You came to our house, and I had my hair perfectly feathered and glorious. It was a glorious head of hair I used to have. And I remember you getting ready to take our picture, sit at the table with my mom and dad on both sides, and I had to check my hair one more time before you snapped the picture. And you're like, "Hey, I don't have all day. Got to get that hair right." But Mac was huge in the Aegis sports section as I go through things now, and I count the pages, 16 pages. One of them was one issue had 16 pages of sports coverage.
Well,
Yeah, I think
go ahead,
I
Mac.
was going to say I think we hit 18 a time or two. And, you know, it was really amazing. There was no bean counting. Like, everybody, as the paper, was sold and this and that, and everything was, anytime you get involved with shareholders, there's a problem with the product. It's going to get shrunken, and everybody's looking to, squeeze the extra pennies. What I'm getting at is I had no limitation on space. If I needed 28 pages, I could have gotten it. I remember one night we had pasted up, I think it was 16 pages, and my boss Robbie Wallace came walking by the paste up room. He rarely would walk in there. He never interfered, and he was puffing his pipe, and he looked at me and he said, "How's everything going?" I said, "Pretty good, Robbie." I said, "We've got a lot of copy and photos left over here." And he looked at me and he looked at Wilson Johnson, who was in charge of the paste up, and he said, "Wilson, put up 2 more pages. That would be blank pages with no advertisement on it." I mean, just do it. What's the problem? Just do it. If you told newspaper people today that, they'd probably keel over. Well, first of all, they
Oh, they
wouldn't
would.
believe you, and then they'd keel over. So, and it was so good.
I have a question for you. What did you do with all the lines that went in between the columns? Did it ever occur to anybody that maybe that was a wasted space on the page?
Well, I kind of kept things organized, I
But you know what I'm
guess.
talking about, those lines, those
Yeah,
horizontal lines. I
right,
just
right.
I'd never seen that in a newspaper. Just a kid that didn't see too many newspapers to begin with.
Well,
Right.
you'd have to ask Roland Street, Barney Frew, Charlie Head about those lines because the biggest worry, Wade Krismer was the advertising manager, and he would jump all over Robbie. Robbie, we got to have more. We got to have more advertising space. We're outnumbered 40% advertising, 60% news. Well, to the people in the county, that was a blessing. It wasn't
Yeah,
full of advertising.
Right.
And Robbie's example with Mackey of get another couple pages out. You had to have two, and we did it. Why? Because we wanted to be the best in the county and we covered everything.
right.
I mean,
Keep one, I think it was a Friday afternoon. It was kind of a slow time, getting ready for the weekend sports to start. And I thought, I'm going to go grab one of those big binders we used to keep old copies in. And I went back to them. It was the mid 80s. And I wanted to see, how many stories and how many photos we ran in the sports section. Now, I forget the number of stories, but I remember we had 65 photographs in the sports section. Only one of them was what we call a head and shoulder shot, just like a little one column. The rest of them were, 2, 3, 4 columns wide. And that's a lot of sports coverage.
if I had a memory and you just jogged it, it was when every year there'd be the all county basketball team
Oh, yeah, it was
or
great.
whatever. And one year, we were just so good back then.
Yep.
Everybody was good. You said, I want to do an outdoor picture of the five guys. And I don't know if it was you or me. I'm not looking to give credit to either one of us that suggested Donald Holmes and that bucket truck
Right. Cherry
And
picker.
Robbie and Donald were big buddies, and we're over to Bel Air Elementary, the
The old,
recreational court. And I mean, I had never been in a bucket in my life. Got the camera, and it's kind of swaying.
well,
And you said, "Are you ready?" And I said,
well,
"I'm okay as long as I don't fall out." And I did the shot, and it
but
was, you blew it up, I think, six
so,
column
so,
or five column at least.
so we're over top the outdoor court, and
Yes.
you are directly over the basket.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wanted the five guys like elbowing each other, looking up
Yes.
like to get the
Yeah.
rebound. And I'm
Yep.
thinking, now this was brilliant on my non-mechanical part. What I did was I took a roll of duct tape and I laid it on the rim, and and then I taped the tape to the rim, and I
Hit the
Oh,
set
ball.
the ball in the duct tape with the hole in the middle.
Oh, okay,
Well,
like a
you can't
donut.
see the duct tape.
no,
If
that's right.
if you're looking straight down, you can't see it. So there's the ball teetering on, and you've got all day to take that picture
Oh,
because the
yeah.
ball's not going to move.
Now, wait a minute. I got another one, another basketball team. And the title of it, I'm going to give you the title and you tell me where I took it.
Uh,
The Doctors of Dunk.
Operating room at Falston General
We
Hospital.
somehow we got in an operating room.
Well, Robbie was on
Everybody
the.
had the smocks on, and they let us go in there and take
Yeah,
a photograph of the five greatest
yeah.
basketball.
They
Now
had to
those
put.
pictures are iconic. I
Yeah, they
mean,
are.
and your creativity is why they're there. My talent to
We
take the
had
picture and do it right, but
we
I'd like to review those old photographs of when they had the all county
yeah,
players. Five
yeah,
was easy to work with because there are a whole bunch of
Yeah.
faces, and 11 for a football team, offense, defense. But the basketball ideas you came up with, oh
yeah. We
man,
had. I remember Junie Miller from North Harford. We had him actually laying on the operating table, and of
yes,
course the guys got their scrubs on and their little hats and their things on their feet and everything. Let's see, George Noon from Bel Air High School was on in that picture. Ron Gurley from Joppatown. I think one of the Skip Mitchell from Aberdeen, and there's another one. I
incredible
can't.
memory, Mac.
Hey, while we've got you on here, could you talk a little bit about the Sports Hall of Fame? You know, does we just started this thing 3 years ago. You're in the third class. We've had Olympians, world champions, professional athletes, and we're trying to develop this thing. And I feel like we're going the right direction. I'm always looking for input from other people. What do you think of this whole Sports Hall of Fame? I caught a little bit of heat from somebody from on behalf of Barb Solberg that said, "Well, it's about time she goes in." I said, "We're 3 years old.
We're 3 years
Assume
old.
that this thing's 50 years old."
Right, right. It's well, I tip my hat to you for taking the initiative. That Hall of Fame crossed my mind many times, but that's all it did was cross my mind. I didn't take any action on it. So but it long overdue. I've been around so long I could think of so many people, unfortunately, no longer with us who would, certainly deserve of the royal treatment and inducted into that Hall of Fame.
Well, while you're on that, let's talk just briefly. I just came back from Florida, as you guys know, and I saw Fred Calcutt, who was class
Right.
of 58 or 59. I'm not sure from Bel Air, but I grew up hearing about Mankiewicz and Calcutt and their athletic exploits, so to speak. And then when I moved to Bel Air, there was a board that was in the back steps leading from the main gym down to the boys' locker room. That this board that had all of the track records. And I've tried. I looked. I look everywhere. I contacted several people that I thought may have had an idea. That board couldn't have just been destroyed when they tore down the school, but apparently it was. But that board, I used to look at that thing every time and look at all those names up there, and Calcutt and Mankiewicz, and there were a couple other guys. They had records for forever. Well, when I went down to see Fred Calcutt last week, um, for an 87 or 8-year old guy, he looked pretty sharp. He moved like a cat. The women loved him because he's got that outgoing personality. And you saw my email about some of the people in the assisted living homes. They lose a little inhibition sometimes, and new people come around. They're trying to grab attention. It was quite an experience for me. But when I got a hold of Craig Reddish and I said, "Listen, we got to do something for this guy," Todd Holden is nominating him, and who knows how long he's going to be with us. And
Right.
he told me that, and I believe him, that he really doesn't think much about those days. It just doesn't come up. So we got that football shirt, the hooded sweatshirt set down, and I took it over there to him, and he was the cock of the walk, man. He was walking around like he owned that place.
Right.
But Fred Calcutt is one of those guys that, along with a handful or probably a whole bunch of other people, that we should figure out a way to get them in. It'd be nice to get them in while they are able to walk across the stage.
Yeah. Well, Fred and I had class together, a lot of classes. I watched him play football, and he was on the same lacrosse team with me. And we didn't know how to play lacrosse, but Fred was a midfielder, obviously, because of his speed. And he would get the ball instead of cradling it and just run to the other end and take a shot. I mean, he would pass and they would pass to him, but it was really funny because there was another guy, Dave Edwards, tremendous athlete, and the two of them were our midfielders. And if they were working together, we didn't win many games. It was all Baltimore City, Friends, Boys Latin, St. Paul. There was nobody in Harford County playing lacrosse back then, but Fred took that on too, and he had a great sense of humor. Just funny, but not an egomaniac like King of the Hill or anything like that. Humble guy.
He's still funny.
Oh, he is.
I didn't know what to expect when I was like, I'm gonna go see this guy and his assisted living. I didn't know what to expect. I was
Well,
there for an hour with him.
when I was talking to him the day you were there, I said, "Well, how are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm getting ready to go to the rehab. I'm still athletically inclined." And I laughed and he laughed, but it's true. He's one in a million and just as real as they come.
Well,
So,
say he moves like a cat. That's not exaggeration.
oh yeah,
Those people up there, they're trudging along and he's shucking and jiving.
oh
Like,
yeah,
give me the rock. I'll carry the ball. A great guy.
great guy.
So one other thing before we wrap this up, what I wanted to get Mac's opinion on is, we're coming up on the NFL draft. Harford County has had, I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 dozen athletes that have played professional football in some way, shape, or form. And the draft has got to, it's a much bigger deal now than it used to be. Talk
Right.
about the athletes and the coverage that they received from the Aegis, and maybe even from, was it the News American and the Sun back in the day. What are your thoughts or recollections on that, Mac?
On the players, well, mine first jumped to Greg Boone, Bel Air High School running
Right.
back, and he went to Duke, played for Red Wilson, and I don't know, maybe another coach along the way. I don't
Steve
know
Spurrier.
how long.
He played
Spurrier
for
was
Spurrier for a year.
Spurrier. Well, now was that when he was in the USFL?
Yeah, well, he played for Spurrier at Duke, and
Well,
then Spurrier went to the Tampa Bay Bandits in the USFL
Okay.
and told Greg, this is what Greg told me. He said, I'm going to get you in our draft next year if you're still around when our number comes up.
Yeah, he was. I know when he played for Coach Wilson. Wilson said that Greg was the best blocking running back he ever saw anywhere. And he was a tough guy. Wasn't that big? Wasn't that, what was he, 5'9" maybe?
5'9", we graduated 5'9", 195 with a 4.3 40 and a 450-pound bench press.
Tough nut. And then, you've got other, of course, we all know the Randy McMillan story, with the Baltimore Colts and then the Indy Colts and so forth. And
Pankey.
Oh yeah, of course, Big Irv Pankey with the Rams, and then he ended up with the Colts, I think, the last year or two, right? And we've had guys, of course, the Henderson brothers, EJ and Aaron, linebackers, Minnesota Vikings, played at Maryland. Gosh, there were so many. There was actually
there's a lot of guys that just got like Jeff Grant. He was brought into the Dolphins, and they
right.
said, "We want you to be a wide receiver." And Neville was I think he was either drafted or asked to try out, and things just didn't work out. But do you remember the coverage? Did you guys really pay attention to these guys? I know you did with Grant and Amrine and so are those guys while they were in college.
Oh yeah.
But when it got to that point when they're talking about going up to the pros, did you?
Yeah, well, we followed them through. Yeah, we followed them through college closely. All the blue chippers. The guys we knew had a shot at going up to the next level. Oh sure.
I thought it's interesting that we had the Colts would be looking for local talent. I mean, to draft Randy McMillan first round. That's huge. I mean, not many, you got 32 people get a chance to be a first round draftees.
Right.
Out of the 3,000 that are eligible for the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I was over at the headquarters that draft day over at Owings Mills, and I think it was Mike McCormick was the head coach at the time, and I believe he was the one who came in and announced our first pick as Randy McMillan. Well, I backed up, fell against the wall. I thought, oh, this is great local angle here. So I was, super happy to hear that.
Yeah, I don't know if we have anybody that's going to be any low. Well, we got the Hemby boy, the Hemby,
right.
Roman Hemby, that he went to John Carroll, went to Maryland, then transferred to Indiana, won the national championship.
Right.
He was just on Good Morning Football the other day, and being interviewed. And I don't know if he's going to get drafted or what'll happen there, but there's probably a couple others. Well, probably not from Harford County, but University of Maryland guys that. University of Maryland being in the Big Ten helps with exposure, but doesn't help with the one that wins and loss record.
Well, that could change.
Yeah. Well, listen, fellas, I appreciate your time. Next time we get together, we want to talk about some racing. We have probably one of the things that goes unnoticed is the various types of racing. You got people that run against each other. You got people that drive against each other, ride against each other, sail against each other. I mean, our history of successful hydroplane racers from Harford County is, that's probably a very well kept secret.
Yeah.
But we want to talk more about that next time around, and we'll get together then. Thanks for checking in, and we'll see y'all next time. Thanks, fellas.